The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Zrixthal's three eyes widened in what could only be described as primal terror. On the holographic display before the assembled delegates floated an image that defied everything they understood about warfare, engineering, and sanity itself. "This," Zrixthal whispered, his translator struggling to convey the tremor in his voice, "is what the humans call a Titan-class warship." The UNS Prometheus hung in the black void like a sleeping god, 5 kilometers of reinforced hull plating, bristling with weapon systems that made the Council's dreadnoughts look like children's toys. But it wasn't the size that froze the blood in their alien veins. It was the philosophy behind it. Council Military Advisor Krelnix rose from her seat, her scales rippling with agitation. "Impossible. Our intelligence suggested humanity possessed only light cruisers and defensive platforms. They've been a spacefaring species for barely 2 centuries. Our intelligence," Zrixthal said bitterly, "was catastrophically wrong. 3 months earlier, the Council had dispatched the enforcement fleet to human space. It was supposed to be routine, a show of force to remind the newcomers of their place in the galactic hierarchy. Humanity had been expanding too quickly, asking too many questions, refusing to accept the limitations other species had learned to embrace. The Council's Third Fleet, commanded by the decorated Admiral Thexnor, had entered the Sol system with 47 warships. They had expected negotiation. They had expected submission. They had expected fear. What they encountered instead was the Prometheus. The engagement lasted 17 minutes. 17 minutes that shattered 4,000 years of accepted military doctrine. The Council fleet's advanced shields, honed through millennia of warfare, proved useless against humanity's kinetic weapons. Simple tungsten rods accelerated to relativistic speeds. No energy signature to detect, no exotic particles to deflect, just mass and velocity operating on principles as old as physics itself. But the kinetic weapons were merely the opening act. The Prometheus deployed what humans called Hellfire swarms, millions of autonomous drones that moved with insect-like coordination, each carrying just enough explosive to cripple a fighter or disable a weapons array. The Council's targeting systems, designed to track individual threats, simply couldn't process the swarm's collective intelligence. Then came the electromagnetic pulse weapons that turned the Council's interconnected fleet into floating scrap metal, followed by boarding parties of armored humans who fought with a ferocity that stunned the Council's professional soldiers. When Admiral Thexnor finally managed to transmit a surrender signal, 31 Council ships were adrift or destroyed. The Prometheus had sustained minimal damage. How? Demanded Council High Speaker Vornash, his mandibles clicking in distress. How did they build such a monstrosity without our knowledge? Zrixthal pulled up another display. Blueprints, construction reports, public human broadcasts. They didn't hide it, High Speaker. They built it in plain sight. We simply didn't believe what our scouts were telling us. The truth was worse than any deception. While the Council's member species had spent millennia perfecting energy weapons and defensive technologies, humanity had taken a different path. They had studied the Council's military, identified its assumptions, and deliberately engineered solutions to exploit them. Humans called it asymmetric warfare. The Council called it madness. They don't fight like civilized species, Krelnix protested. These kinetic weapons, they're little better than throwing rocks. And these drones, where is the honor in sending machines to do a warrior's work? Honor, said a new voice, is a luxury afforded to those who win. Every head in the chamber turned. A human stood in the doorway. Ambassador Sarah Chen, representing Earth and its colonies. She walked to the center of the chamber with quiet confidence, her simple dress uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate regalia of the Council members. Ambassador Chen, Vornash said carefully, we were not informed you would be attending this session. I invited myself, Chen replied. I understand you finally reviewed the footage from the Thexnor incident. Incident? Krelnix hissed. You massacred a Council fleet. We defended our sovereign space against an unprovoked military incursion, Chen corrected coolly. As is our right under the very charter you asked us to sign when we joined the galactic community. Zrixthal studied the human carefully. She showed no fear, no uncertainty. Behind her, the hologram of the Prometheus rotated slowly, a silent promise of devastation. What do you want, Ambassador? Vornash asked. Want? Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Hi, Speaker, I think you misunderstand the situation. We don't want anything. We're here to inform you that humanity is no longer asking for permission. She gestured to the hologram. The Prometheus isn't our only Titan-class ship. It isn't even our largest. While you've been debating whether to grant us voting rights or access to certain trade routes, we've been building, growing, adapting. Chen's expression softened slightly. The Council has maintained order for 4 millennia. That's admirable. But order built on the assumption that no one will challenge it isn't order, it's stagnation. Humanity doesn't seek conflict, but we will not be contained. The chamber erupted in protests, threats, and demands. Chen waited patiently until the noise subsided. Here are humanity's terms, she continued. Full council membership with voting rights, removal of all territorial restrictions, and most importantly, recognition as a sovereign military power, not a protectorate requiring your permission to defend itself. And if we refuse? Vornash asked quietly. Chen turned to leave, pausing at the doorway. Then I suggest you build bigger ships, High Speaker. Because right now we have 12 Titan-class warships with 40 more under construction. And unlike you, we've been preparing for war since the day we looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. As the door closed behind her, the council sat in stunned silence. On the hologram, the Prometheus continued its slow rotation, a monument to human ingenuity, stubbornness, and the simple principle that had carried them from caves to the stars: adapt or die. The Council had stopped adapting millennia ago. Humanity was just getting started.